Well, good morning, afternoon, and evening, depending on, or good night, wherever you are. How lovely it is to come together, even if we're doing it in kind of what is termed a virtual reality or a virtual classroom. It is what it is, and it's still nice to be able to touch in with each other and share some space and some, perhaps the opening of the mind in some ways that perhaps have been uh, closed a little bit. And I just want to take just a second here, if you'll excuse me. What I'm doing is kind of attuning to the group to see exactly what I think you need today. After all, this is a transmission of sorts, a transmission that hopefully will leave you with a sense of something perhaps bigger, vaster, more loving than how you came today. You know, the interesting thing is that everyone comes to a session such as this carrying the loads of their own life, whatever they may be. They're different, certainly, person to person. At least at one level, they're different. And at another level, perhaps they're not so different. But this is a piece that everyone has to kind of distill. And so I think what I'm sensing is that we need to talk a little bit about truth. This is a very interesting time, and as some of you know, truth has become kind of an interesting and rare commodity these days, hasn't it? And certainly in the US, I'll confine my remarks to that, although all of you in your countries will recognize that you have similar situations going on. But there are so many people that it's called Capitol Hill, where all the senators and the representatives are who are supposed to represent the people. And then we have the administration, which is the president and his crew. And it's very interesting now because you're living in a time where truth does not seem to have very much value. In other words, it doesn't seem to matter to a whole lot of people whether they tell you the truth or not. They want to tell you another story. And there was an interesting fellow who wrote a book. It was published maybe within the last year, I suppose. But he writes about the American mentality being a study in magical thinking. And he traces this idea all the way back to the early part of this country where people sort of got the idea they could, because it was a democratic system, they didn't have to follow along with some king or other ruler. They could believe what they wanted to believe. And so this theme has been woven all the way through the collective psyche of what is the United States. But today it's reflected back from almost everywhere. People always have to figure out, am I hearing the truth or not? And this is where it gets very interesting because there are many so-called conspiracy theories that are not only touted or presented, but they are held up as truth. And there are even sites that people can go to do so-called fact-checking that are actually geared by the same people that create the fake news, I guess, if we can use that word. And it's kind of an interesting thing. And we had a question last time about conspiracy theories, and it wasn't it important to listen to them because they seem to reveal how people are being manipulated, who's in control, who's taking over, who's running this, who's running that. And the answer that I gave to the person was, well, the ultimate test of anything you take into your precious mind is what it does to your mind. Is it more expansive because you've taken this in? Does it seem kinder, a sweeter place to dwell? Does it have higher aspirations now? Does it know more peace? Does it feel safer? Does it feel expanded? You see, these are the kinds of things that, if you're on a spiritual path, you want to feed your mind. And I know a lot of people say, well, that's just plain denial. I have to know what's really going on. But my dear friends, that's the whole test. Nobody really knows what's going on, at least not at the phenomenal level. Everybody is making it up however they want. Now, they do this based probably on prior experiences in this life and also knowledges that they put together or amassed from another life. And what happens is there's sort of a pattern to the way they see things. And most people try to fit every experience they have into that mental pattern. Now, at one level, it's really creative. It shows how powerful the mind is. But at another level, what it really says is that the mind is not open at all, naturally. Karma is in charge. And that karmic picture that you have of your own life, of all the people who are in your life, the so-called conventional reality that you experience, that all has to fit that overall pattern that your mind has created.